Hello friends, today I would like to talk about instruction can improve classroom listening. Dear friends, every teacher in the junior and senior high school, both in his homeroom and classroom relationships with the students, can bring about improvement in listening. One means is to discuss with his students the talks and the sounds films they have listened to in the classroom, the club and the auditorium. Dear friends, prompt attentions to the speaker should be required, for it is an essential of learning and a requirement of courtesy. Listening to relate new informations to old is a skill which can be sharpened in every subject area. Previewing an announced discussion and listing pertinent questions can help the students to identify what he already knows, believes, or thinks about the subject to be discussed. Doing this will stimulate him to listen for what is new and for what confirms or refutes his ideas or beliefs. Remembering what is heard becomes easier when the alert listener selects and makes a special mental note of what he desires to recall. Students become better listeners if they listen for specific things. The class, for example, may be divided into small groups, each listening for different points. Group 1 may be asked to listen for new ideas. Group 2 for familiar ideas aptly expressed. Group 3 for the speaker's plan of organization. Group 4 for effective ways used by the speaker to hold or to reclaim attention. Group 5 for quotable phrases or sentences. Group 6 for supported generalizations. Group 7 for clues to questions to be raised in the discussions period. Dear friends, after the talk, each listening group is allowed 5 minutes to share within the group what was heard. One member is chosen by the 5 as their spokesman in the general discussion. What each representative brings one will help the entire class to see what can be done in purposeful listening. Discussions under the guidance of the teacher will also reveal how listeners can focus their attentions and how they can school themselves to remember whatever they decide they will want to recall. Dear friends, I would like to talk on another point. When possible, it is desirable to play back of recording of the talk so that all listeners may be listened to check their skills. Number 1, sensing the speaker's organizations. Number 2, discovering new ideas, familiar ideas, quotable phrases and sentences, unsupported or questionable generalizations or unwarranted inferences. And number 3, being alert to a need for questions to clarify or to extend what the speaker said. From time to time, when several students or the entire group are presenting ideas orally, it is useful to have 2 or 3 students serve as listeners with specific purposes. These listening observers may later assist their classmates in an appraisal of how well the students listened, how well they participated in this discussion, and what at any point or points seems to block the flow of ideas. Friends, listening to playback of such discussions is a revealing experience to all participants, those who took part orally and those who served as listeners with specific purposes. Every student would profit from the experience, at least once during the year of taking the role of a listening observer for the class as a whole to check on the flow of participation, the relevancy of questions and comments, and the quality of thinking evident in the discussion. From such activities, the substance of a discussion is learned. Equally important, the techniques of effective participation as listeners and as speakers are identified as guides to self-improvement. Dear friends, it is also necessary to train students to listen to the presiding officer when he outlines the scope of a panel discussions and indicates the procedures to be followed. For example, a brief statement is to be made by each member in succession, or the topic is to be tossed out for the entire panel, each panelist speaking as he feels moved. This second kind of a panel discussions is more difficult for immature students to follow than is a symposiums of a short but related presentations. High school students should learn to listen to both kinds. Thank you, friends, for listening.